Welcome to In the Room, where we explore the elusive world of casting for film, TV, and commercials. Join us as we interview directors, writers, producers, and actors, taking a deep dive into their experiences with casting and how the ultimate decisions are made in bringing a story to the screen. Get an inside look at casting and find out what really goes on in the room.
Get up. Your brother got shot.
I feel like it's my duty to kind of, be here for you. That's what I want to do. Just saying like a big brother.
You'll never be my big brother, you heard me?
Ride with him for a little bit.
I see a lot of me in you, Day. Trying to help you out.
Yo, Day, come here.
What's up?
See that?
Yeah. I got jumped in.
Got jumped into what?
I got jumped in the blood.
Welcome to the neighbor, man. You in this now? Ain't no turning back.
Man, we like brothers.
Yeah, we like brothers, like Brain Day, the sweet life of Brain Day.
Our life ain't even sweet. We struggle.
Well, welcome to In the Room. I'm Heather Kafka, and I'm an actor.
I am John Williams. I am a casting director.
I'm Kendra Franklin. I'm an actor and the assistant to John and Carmen.
And today, we're in the room with writer-director AMMAN ABBASI.
Hello.
Hi. AMMAN ABBASI. Okay, AMMAN is a Pakistani-American writer-director, editor, and composer, actually, by way of Little Rock, Arkansas. His film DAYVEON premiered at the 2017 Sundance Film Festival and earned 2 Independent Spirit Award nominations. He got the 25 New Faces of Independent Film nod from Filmmaker magazine. He's explored documentary filmmaking with the Renault brothers, where he covered the aftermath of the Haiti earthquake for the New York Times. He worked as editor for the documentary Last Chance High, which received an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Editing. And his music contributions include David Gordon Green's Halloween series and even an album with his brother that topped the charts in Japan. Today we're going to talk about the film DAYVEON. In the wake of his older brother's death, 13-year-old DAYVEON spends the sweltering summer days roaming his rural Arkansas town. When he falls in with a local gang, he becomes drawn to the camaraderie and violence of their world.
When you read your bio like that, you sound so accomplished, Amon.
I mean, you
I know, especially with Heather's voice. Wow.
Right.
I'm like, wait
No,
a minute.
this is really, really sweet. I'm happy to be here with you all, and yeah, just like what John said, it sounds so much more accomplished when you're reading it.
I was like, wait, this is Amon. Oh, wait.
Well, I can't wait to get into it and talk about the film. But first, we usually start with getting to know a little bit about you and where this filmmaking storytelling journey all began for you in your life. Were you a kid? Were you college? How did it all start?
I mean, there was never like a kind of quote unquote grand plan. It was all just exercises of passion and hobby from an early age. My brother and I would just make homemade videos and homemade movies, but it was never just exclusively like an eye towards movie making. My brother's a really, really talented painter. I like playing music. My sister is just so well read. And so I think it was just something to sort of occupy time when we were younger, just kind of like amalgamate all of these interests. And, watching movies was a form of escapism too. So I think it just found us as much as we found it, if that makes sense. And that's like the genuine truth. Like it was a way to occupy time and sort of like mental creativity in a way. Yeah.
I have a question. What kind of stuff were you guys doing?
I mean, it's just like random, silly stuff, like absurdist short films where I would act in it, my brother would act in it, and we'd have this old school like Magnavox camcorder, and we would edit on the VHS. In fact,
Yes, us too.
but like that, there was no ambition beyond that. It was just like having a good time, and also not just having a good time, like expressing ourselves through these sort of like tools that we're like getting curious about as well,
That's so brilliant. That reminds me of when I was a kid. You're a little bit younger than me, but it was similar. My dad bought a camcorder. I think it had to stay plugged in. But we were like that. And so there was a little film that we made that I would die to find, where my cousin Melissa and I dressed up in whatever gown dresses we could find, and we got a bunch of my mom's jewelry. And then we sat in the car in the driveway while my little brother, who was probably like 5 at the time, he had on one of my dad's like ski masks. I don't know why my dad had ski masks, but he had his ski mask on, and my dad would go, "Okay, go now, Jeffrey." And he was filming, and he would run into the shot as we are getting out of the car, and we're like, "Oh, our jewels, we just came from Tiffany's," and we have no idea what we're saying. And he runs over and tries to rob us, and then it's like, save us. And it's just a ridiculous thing. But it was so
I love
like,
that.
that's what we did all day that day. It was like a whole family thing,
Exactly. Like that's so liberating and fun, especially when the whole family joins. Like now you like have jogged my memory too, because my parents would be like involved in ours too.
Yeah.
100%, but yeah, it sounds similar. And it's always really nice when you have like a safe space, when my family and my parents are just incredibly supportive of whatever journey that we've sort of found ourselves on, and they've kind of given ourselves the way to sort of like go down that. And I really like credit them to giving us the chance to sort of explore our creativity, honestly.
That's amazing.
Awesome. Yeah.
Are they creative?
Not by occupation, but 100%, in terms of their just general soul, 100%. Yeah. Like music was always flowing in our house. And
didn't your mom paint, or it was a frame store? Yeah, right. Your mom paints.
That's right, John. Yeah. When you came through Little Rock, you had seen my framing gallery. And so basically my mom custom frames artwork, and I think that was really nice to just kind of grow up in a space like that, because even though it's pretty vocational in terms of trade, it was such a creative act of like pairing colors and the frame and how you sort of view a piece of art. And so it was cool to just have access to that type of thing growing up.
And then you went to the University of Arkansas for your film degree, is that right?
No, I didn't. I wish I could claim something like that. No, I didn't. I went to a liberal arts school for like a semester, and I'm not proud to say I kind of left. It was a version of either getting kicked out or dropping out, and I chose to drop out within the first semester and sort of say la vie.
So tell us the evolution from you and your brothers and that, because I know you did stuff in high school too, right? And then you early on were working like Vice and doing other stuff too, right?
Yeah, well, the Vice stuff came later, but in high school I was really doing a lot of music stuff. Again, not like a sort of career ambition, but growing up in Arkansas, my brother and I were like really obsessed with sort of like synthesizers and programming music and all of that. So I was doing a lot of that. But then came that sort of like, the idea of going to college. And I was like, I don't really know what I want to do with my life, quote unquote, but I love making music. But it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to try to do the music thing. But my brother was in grad school at Berkeley, and I was enrolled at Hendrix College, which is a small liberal arts school in Arkansas. And I chose to kind of go out to Berkeley and hang out with my brother and like sleep on his sofa and make music. And it was such a formative time, honestly. It was just like, it was really, really great. But with that said, I sent out a few like demos to some record labels, and we got a few bites, and to not to our expectation, but we were kind of thrilled that it started to find a little bit of a following beyond just the people we were like in our close circle or something, Yeah.
Yeah, and you can really see how much music plays a part in your films as far as how you tell the story and set the tone and set the world. And actually, almost in a sort of, I felt, juxtaposed sort of way in this film. Like, the style of some of the music that you used at certain times seemed very almost classical, romantically beautiful, and juxtaposed against a very harsh world. It was really compelling in that way. Anyway.
Oh, well, I really appreciate that. Thank you so much. I mean, music is definitely it's my first love. It's 100% my first love. Yeah.
So walk us through how DAYVEON came to be.
Yeah, so after this sort of like doing the music thing for a little bit, my interests had really kind of not evolved, but there was always this sort of passion for film there too. And in high school, I got very lucky to have met Brent and Craig Renault, who I really credit as some of my personal mentors. And they're journalists and documentarians, and they, brought me on to sort of apprentice under them. So I went to New York after I dropped out, after the whole Berkeley thing, after hanging out with my brother. And I basically worked as just like a assistant editor, just doing anything odds and ends for them. But I learned just the way to sort of handle camera, handle all bits of the technical, but also they possess such a humanist eye to their subjects. And I really credit that sort of early time of getting to just sit with individuals with or without camera. And that really helped me understand the way in which I wanted to approach narrative filmmaking. Because the films that I've always loved are character focused. I think story is kind of overrated. I know that's kind of crazy to say, but like in American cinema, there's this idea of like we're storytellers, and yes, that's great, but a film doesn't only have to sort of occupy the space of storytelling. I think it's much more rich than that. And I think characters, especially in film, is just something that I'm really passionate about. So DAYVEON kind of came through a process of working with Brent and Craig when I was doing a documentary in Chicago with them. And so I used elements of what I'd learned in Chicago and started to write a narrative that would take some of the documentarian like process and build it into a narrative. And honestly, it was once again a big experiment. I didn't really know what I was doing. I mean, frankly, I still don't. But that was kind of the general idea.
And I remember the stuff in Chicago. It was like inner city. What was that? All that work?
Yeah. So there was a series for Vice called Last Chance High that, primarily was in the south side of Chicago and the west side of Chicago. And it was a 6-part series that I was very fortunate enough to work alongside Brendan Craig Renault as, documented youth culture and gang violence, and also the broken education system in Chicago at that time. So it was pretty, expansive. So we spent a good amount of time there.
And so at what point, like, do you remember when you're like, oh, this is a good idea for a film, or this could be, or where did the idea come from?
Yeah, it was during the times where the camera was off primarily, of when, talking to someone who is young and so gifted, yet they're really curious about wanting to join a gang. That is like quite a intriguing proposition as to why in that. And what slowly started to come out was this idea of family or brotherhood, and these really kind of thoughtful desires that we all have. And it, of course, made complete sense. And I was just very like, it created a lot of empathy in for all of us. And so I thought focusing in on that very idea of, not what gangs are thought to be by the headlines, or, it's just always these ever passing headlines. We don't really get the sort of like true depth of character as to why a person would want to join a gang. And so that was really the inception, the seed of it.
Nice.
I think you succeeded brilliantly at that. I'm not kidding.
I appreciate that. Thank you so much.
I'm serious. Like, I mean, of all the films that I've seen on this subject, you do find yourself continually asking, oh, why? Why?
Mm-hmm.
But something about the way in the edit and in you taking the time to sit with them and really create just the space in the world, we were able to sort of submerge ourselves there, and you really stripped it down to where you could really feel that it was just these motivations in this room, in this small place. And it started to actually sort of make sense why. Like, I think you kind of showed an answer for that question for the first time in anything I've ever seen, where it's just like, what the violence, why would you, please, no, there's happy, I promise. And like, there was actually a beautiful acceptance in it, like when he's trying to make the gang signs, and it's like beautiful down by the water, and he wants to take a picture, and like you can really just get inside that and feel what every young kid, especially at that age, is searching for. And when all you have is this circle around you, you almost make it beautiful for yourself.
Yeah. I think that, well, thank you for saying that. That's very kind. I feel as though there's a universal feeling of wanting to find acceptance, finding a community. And I think that's a human desire everywhere. And I think that was really what this film to me was about more than anything. And yeah, I didn't want to try to, I don't know, I just wanted things to linger, let ideas linger, rather than sort of present what I believe to be true or not false or any of that. It's just like, this is a space, this is a world, these are beautiful characters. Let's find a way to sort of present them in their sort of most elegant, pristine way.
Well, I think you did that with oodles of respect. Do you know what I mean? Like, I could feel a respect for each and every character in the story that allowed me a space for empathy and like to sort of really figure it all out from their perspective. Sorry, I'm like a big, I like
that's
literally
really kind.
loved this movie. If you can't tell, I'm gonna get obnoxious on this episode. Okay, go ahead.
So let's
yes, let's talk about casting.
Let's let them into what a crazy ride it was, and from just we had nothing. We had nothing.
Honestly, Carmen and John are saints, because they really, this was a labor of love from everyone's part. And so I deeply credit them.
I mean, it's a hero story, right? The fact that you had this idea, you wrote this amazing script, and you're like, we're going to make this.
Yeah.
Well,
you convinced us.
When did these amazing casting directors come into play for you in the process? Like, how did you meet them? When did you find them?
So yeah, exactly. So we met officially on the Manglehorn set at some point, and I had the utmost respect for what they did, and also I think that like what I really appreciate about John and Carmen is that there's just no like facade. And I think we kind of got along pretty quickly, because we were just who we are at the first moment. And I think there was hopefully some mutual respect there. But I started to express my interest of making a movie in Arkansas maybe a year or two after Manglehorn. I was kind of warming up that idea, but then I started talking to people a year or two after Manglehorn. And of course, John and Carmen are the first call in terms of casting, because I think not only will they get it, but they have the sort of the unconventional ideas to bring something onto film that is not typical. And that is equally what I'm interested in.
I mean, that's the thing. It's a partnership. It's like finding someone who also is okay with that process, right? And is willing to go down this unconventional road.
That's right. That's right. And I think there was a lot of push and pull on both of our sides that made this kind of a very unique process, and one that I still value. And yeah, it was great. But John, tell me, like, it was from your perspective, when I brought this idea to you, what I know, like, now looking back, it went really well, but like, what were some of those early thoughts on your part?
I mean, I felt that I believed in you, in what you wanted, what your vision was. And I think that me and Carmen both were excited at the idea of being able to bring authenticity to this world and to create this story in an authentic way. I mean, that's always what really gets us excited. And the work that you did, and, just the idea of Little Rock and just exploring that world was super interesting, Like, it's almost the journey is the enjoyable part for us, as opposed to the end product, right? It's like what we're going to go through and the people we're going to meet, and, the experiences we're going to have. And so that's what gets us excited sometimes,
When you say
it was really inspiring,
what did you mean by that?
The stuff in Chicago that we saw.
Oh, right.
On Vice. Yeah. It was like, oh, he gets it. He gets it. He sees, he sees what we see and you were up for this crazy challenge of trying to take, kids that haven't left a block in rural Arkansas, and say, we're going to get them to act, and we're going to we're going to do storytelling with them. And it was, it's crazy, but I don't know. I was
like, it was really inspiring to see you all, work your magic too,
Yeah. As far as the vision, like from where you started and what happened between the process with Carmen and John, do you feel like the overall vision happened, or like through the process you saw a change, like an arc happen, like, oh, these are the ones? Because
it was a long process. Let's walk them through what we did, because it was a long process.
It was a long, long process. I think for the lead character, DAYVEON, it was like upwards of 300 young kids
and non-actors, right?
Yeah.
So talk me through that specifically. Where do you start, John? What's the first thing you guys do?
We flew to Little Rock.
Yep.
Okay.
And we start and Amman had some contacts. You had a little bit of legwork done. You had people for us to meet,
Yeah, and also I got to mention LaShawn Buckingham, one of our producers, was instrumental. He really is just an incredible producer, as well as he was an actor in the film too.
He wasn't going to be, but then he ended up being. Yeah,
but he just was clearly presenting himself as a great artist overall. But yeah, sorry, go ahead.
It's a discovery process.
So you fly to Arkansas.
And
you get a hotel.
Mm-hmm. And we start going around during the day and just talking to people. And then
that's right.
And talking to random people.
Random people that he knew, random people going to areas, going to houses, we went to, we would have certain people say, hey, you can meet us up here. And we just start interviewing people and talking to folks,
And this in terms of a process for narrative, it's obviously really atypical. But in context to documentary, this is not far-fetched at all. This is kind of like hitting the ground and just kind of making your presence known. And then also, it's that ping pong effect of just being out there, being willing to sort of accept who's willing to share their story, and also engaging in that too. So yeah, it was a little bit of just being out there, but those were long days. Those were long kind of days for sure.
Did you record people with your
Yep.
phone? Did you write their
Yep.
name down if you found them interesting?
Yeah, for sure. We were recording interviews and talking to people and seeing, oh, he could work for this, they could work for that. We were simultaneously looking at local actors as well. We did a call for that, which we found some that way too.
So that was a traditional
that
audition?
was traditional, yeah. And then we also we would be at dinner and we'd see somebody. We'd walk up to him and be like, "Hey, we're
real
casting,
people casting.
we're
for real.
casting for a movie," and so it was. I mean, it was just it's that it always be casting. You're just there and you're just looking at everybody that walks by you. Hey, that guy could work. I mean, your senses are always on, and you're always just sort of like scanning and looking. And hey, what about that guy over there?
Right.
Okay, so you're at dinner.
Yep.
And you see this kid across the
No,
room.
not a kid. We see
Dontel Wright.
Dontel Wright. Yeah.
Okay, and so you walk up to him, and what do you say?
I said we're casting. I think Carmen's the one who did it. Said we're casting for a movie, and we'd love to talk to you about it.
And then what's the first question?
You guys are crazy.
Right. Yeah. Like they always have that look
what's
of
your
like.
first question to them?
What do you want?
Like,
Are you crazy?
What are you looking at them for? What are
I
you
have
saying?
to convince them that this is a
Right,
real
that
thing.
it's real. Yeah.
That I am at Olive Garden in Little Rock, and I'm casting a movie that we're shooting, and so it's convincing them.
And it's legit.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
not a gimmick.
Yeah,
And then do you have any follow-up question? Like,
for sure.
do you know anything about gangs? Or what is it?
We talk. I mean, I don't
What
remember.
is it for this movie? What is it?
I think specifically, I tell them kind of what we're doing, who we're working with, what we've done. You know what I mean? We'd love to talk to you some more about it, and we'd love for you to come in and meet up with you to read.
Right.
And so we then got him sides, and then we met up with him, I think in a Denny's parking lot the first time, and we kind of worked on the scenes a little bit and see if he had anything that was interesting.
John, keep your mic. You keep.
Yeah,
Wow.
sorry. Yeah.
Okay. That's
And-
revealing.
And as soon as he walked in, I think me and Carmen looked at each other. We're like, "Oh, this guy's awesome."
Yeah, and he was. Your instincts were so right because Dontrell plays Brian. Actually, he called me like 2 weeks ago. We caught up. But it was something just so clear and instinctive. And, I think those who just are willing to sort of always be honest and vulnerable, no matter what situation, they tend to can be able to hit some great emotions on screen. But kind of going back to that sort of no facade thing, just of how John, Carmen, and I hit it off in general, I think maybe that is just which John and I have actually never really articulated or talked about, but just even talking about it now, maybe that's our sort of crossover sensibility, what we're actively always kind of looking for. Someone who's just willing to be themselves, whether that's with or without judgment. So, yeah.
I think I am looking through the lens of the script, and I think we definitely have I think when we were out, we definitely had an eye what we were looking for, and I think especially you were good about sort of like, yeah, he could work for that, or I see that could work. You were helping see. I tend to be so narrow focused in looking for what's the special quality about that human. And I felt what's great about working with you is that you were like, no, I'm painting a picture, and I can see how this picture could come together with him over here or that, as I'm just like, this guy's amazing. I don't know what for, but he's amazing.
Right.
Right. So you were kind of doing it all at once, right? Like you were kind of just out in the world going like, he maybe could be a DAYVEON, he maybe could be a Brian, and just sort of throwing this net.
Exactly.
And then at some point...
So it was over the course of several months. We finally got our core cast. And then it was really about, getting everyone literally on the same page, right? So we would do rehearsals. So after John and Carmen went back to Austin, I basically held rehearsals with our cast for 4 months, almost every day. And it started to really come out as a play in many ways. And also beyond just the project, it built so much chemistry that we all felt like family. And honestly, I didn't want this to because in production, in film, it's you only have a few days, and you gotta set up all these lights, cameras. It's just a chaos. It's not very artful. The process is not artful,
right?
And so a way in which to preserve the integrity of those performances, I wanted us to always be in the same space, in the same room, trying to work through those depths together. So by the time we have that chaos presented in front of us, at least it'll feel like the cast's round, in the sense of they know what's happening. And so everyone can operate around them. I wanted to empower them in that way, rather than it could already feel a little bit like, rattling to be on set, even if you're the most trained actor. But then if you're a non-professional actor, that you have like it could feel like a fish out of water. And so I wanted it to feel like it's their turf and everyone's kind of working for them. And I think that started to present itself after we just kind of felt like a family for so long rehearsing this.
Yeah, I mean, there was a level of trust that had to happen, right? That Amman had to build, and that we built with everybody, and we still talk to everybody. We still like, again, you get calls from people, and you catch up. And I think that what you did, which was genius, is that you kind of, without you maybe knowing it, you gave them a process as like what an actor would do, right? You gave them the space. Yeah. To do the work, is what actors always say. Like, you gave them the space to do that and get them comfortable. And plus, these guys, most of them haven't even left their block. Like, they're not. It's not a world that is worldly in a sense that they're comfortable around people. They live in a high pressure, I think, threatening environment. And so to get them comfortable, to be that vulnerable, is just an amazing accomplishment. So that art can happen.
Yeah, I have people back home who've never left.
Yeah.
So I totally get that. I have friends go, "Oh, you made it out." I just went from San Antonio to Austin, but to them, I made it out.
Yeah.
So I do know what you're saying.
Well, Amman, I think that was a really genius move, because, like, even, as a professional actor, that's the thing that, I find difficult all the time, is that space for the actor isn't given on set on the day. Yeah. It's like, we hold for grip and electric, we hold for set design to be ready, and then all of these moving parts, and everybody holds for it, and then once everything's up, it's like, okay, you're just supposed to go now. Like, there's no like hold for 15 minutes while we create an actor's space. That doesn't ever happen, and it's super hard, even like, especially even when you're a professional. And so
you're so right
to know that, like, you doing that beforehand would not only create these genuine connections bonds, with these people, but that it would carry over into a room that is so inhospitable at creating for an actor.
Yeah.
That's fucking amazing.
I really appreciate that. But also, to add to that, I think it was equal parts for me and my own insecurity of directing actors, because to that point, I had only very limited like access to that. And so it was also like selfishly getting me in that room consistently, right?
Workshopping your director skills.
100%, because I didn't know what I was doing, truthfully. So always in hindsight, it looks like there's such clarity, but it was really just to make sure that we were really doing this. We were really going to do this. And like, the fringe benefit was the chemistry. The fringe benefit were those bonding experiences and the evolution of the characters or the story. But ultimately, we just wanted to maintain that closeness. And now you're right. I value that process so much that I want to continue to build that in, regardless if it's a trained actor or a non-trained actor.
No, I think that's amazing.
Yeah, which is just difficult, though, if you're dealing with normal, typical production. Like, getting that time with actors is just near impossible.
You're right.
Like,
you're
this is such a special thing, because time is money.
Yeah,
time
is money.
So what? We pay money for all kinds of things. Let's pay money for this.
Right? On typical, we get a call from our agent. Oh, you booked. And then it's like, oh, hold these 4 days. And you don't know what day you're going to work. And then it's like, okay, you're booked these 2 days, then it gets changed. No, we're going to put fitting on this day, and then you're going to show up on this day. And then you're still waiting to make sure nothing's changed. And then it's like, it's been times I'm like, midnight, I get, oh, here, the side's changed. So now I got like all night, because I got to be on set by 6 to make sure I have the lines down. And then you get there and it's like, here's your new husband and your new sister or whatever. It's like, so like you said, to give the process of the rehearsal like a play, because I come from theater initially. And then from that to TV and film, it's a huge difference. And then you have people who never act at all. Like it was when I watched, I was like, oh my God. The first thing I thought when I was watching was like, this feels so real to me.
Yes.
Like everyone was just so natural. And I swear they must all know each other. So to hear your process, it felt like they knew each other. So they trusted each other and they began to trust you. And I think it doesn't matter if you're an actor or director, that insecurity that you're talking about, I think it happens even no matter how long you've been doing it, you'll still second guess until, like you said, in hindsight, you go, oh, okay, great, it worked, right?
Did you, in that process, did you always rehearse the scenes?
And so sometimes we would do scenes specific to characters. And then other times I would have exercises that would just be more emotional, that don't have the purview of the story or the script, but it's, again, just character and building those sort of layers of character that hopefully will then imbue on screen a certain way. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. So like, it was just kind of like a sandbox, creative sandbox time. Mm-hmm. And it was really fun because I think we were all getting to sort of play in this place that felt safe, that didn't have like the direct consequence of being filmed. And so it was great to kind of, get the feedback too, because Dontrell would read a line on the script and say, actually, I think I want to say it like this. And then therefore now the script is evolving too. And so it was just like this, there was never like hard set parameters of how we use the time.
And just to give him the safe space to do that, right? Because if he was on set with the cameras, he would just be like, he wouldn't be given that information. Let's talk about finding Davion, because that was one of the most special moments I think ever for me. Yeah. Like when we were in that living room.
Can I just tell you how brilliant this kid is, first of all? Like, he's so good. And
he's got it.
I hadn't said anything to my husband. And I started watching, and I think I got to the scene where he was lifting weights. What is that, like 2 scenes in? It's like maybe 3 minutes.
Yeah.
And I stopped, and my husband and I were talking, and I was like, I'm really into this. Do you want to watch it with me? And he was like, okay. That's all I said. I didn't say anything. And I turned it on. And by the time he got to the phone call, when he's like, don't fucking rush me, or whatever he says, he was like, damn, that kid's really good. And Darren never says anything. I didn't say anything to him, and I was like, he's so good.
So yeah, with Davion, did you have an idea of who this person was going to be, and then you end up getting? No, John's going. No. Okay.
Yeah, John, what do you think?
I mean, it was like it was the where are we gonna find this kid? Like, he's a kid, and he's got to carry the whole thing.
Right. Yeah. So you start from scratch.
I mean, you start from panic and anxiety.
Yeah.
Right. That's true.
Like, where are we going to find this kid, And we went to correctional camps. We went to schools. We went everywhere. We looked tons of kids.
And did y'all try to audition?
Yeah, we were at correctional camps auditioning kids.
Did you go out to any agents?
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we did everything. You did everything. Yep.
We that was what was really just so great about John and Carmen's approach. It was very open-minded. It was not to sort of take away the conventional approach and then substitute an unconventional. It was just kind of like a little bit of all of it. And Devin Blackman, who plays Davion, yes, he is incredible. And we got incredibly lucky because, as John says, this young man basically has to be in every frame of this film and carry it. And these are emotional depths that are hard for a well-trained adult to, capture. And he did it in a way that felt, honestly, to me, I'm biased, but masterful. But it was just really him. And the story is that LaShawn Buckingham, who we had mentioned, our producer, he brought in his younger cousin, sort of early-ish in on the process for an audition. Sorry, I don't know if you all are catching. There's a helicopter going by. I'll wait for it.
No, we don't. Okay, we don't catch it.
Okay.
You're good.
And he, we had him do one small scene, and John and I were certainly taken aback because he definitely didn't play it the way we had seen it or thought about it, or others had played it. So it was kind of this unique outlier of like not knowing what to do with this audition. So we just kind of kept auditioning. Slowly but surely, it was so inevitable and clear that he was going to be the lead. And so, and the reason why I say this is there was, in his audition, there was a lot of quiet space, just a lot of space between time where he wouldn't say something. And at first, I sort of thought maybe this was nervousness. But then I came to realize he was just very sort of mature and confident not to fill every bit of silence. And I was like, that's so brilliant. That's like, how does a young person feel that level of confidence not to have to like, you know, speak or sort overperform but still hit those levels when he needs to. So when we brought him in again, we all were like, oh, it's got to be.
We were in the living room in the second one, and I was just like, this is the best I've ever seen. Like, he just did not feel any pressure to say anything until it was truthful. He just sat with it until it was honest for him, and then he put the words out as natural, just on top of that, without pushing, without doing any work, and it was just like, I was like, I've never seen this before.
Oh,
this is amazing. I mean, you know, there's things that through that rehearsal process I can see where he got more comfortable, but his instincts and his just natural ability to speak truthful words without pushing, without trying to feel like he had to perform. And I mean, and he does it throughout the film where it's like he's doing nothing, but he's doing everything.
Yeah. And that's kind of this weird like paradox of Devon where it is a performance, but it's not performative. And that's kind of the brilliance of Devon Blackman, because it never feels performative, but the entire thing is a performance, because he'll turn it right off after cut. And then he's like hanging out and just fine. And like, wow, dude, you are like kind of the real deal over here.
So he was the little cousin?
Yeah. Devon Blackman plays DAYVEON, yeah.
And
no, but I mean, he was LaShawn's cousin, little cousin that he brought in?
Yeah.
And had he ever acted before?
No.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I mean, like, honestly, he reminded me of kids I went to school with, like guys I went to school with, you know?
Right.
I'm just, you know?
Yeah.
That's why I was watching, like, I was kind of really drawn in because of that, you know? And I was like, where'd they get him from? But yeah, it was so good.
Through the whole film, there's not a second where I'm like, not.
He didn't mean that.
Or I'm just not enthralled with him. I could sit and watch him work with his hands, try to make gang signs for hours.
Stare at a wall.
Yeah. And he also, you know, is very studious too, in the sense of he would take it seriously and show up for the work and put in the effort and really just was committed beyond his instinctive talent. Like, he was open to collaboration, open to grow. And so it was a tremendous process. I really, really enjoyed working with him so much.
So let's talk about going from the rehearsal and then going into production and how that was, because that was a whole new experience for you.
Yeah.
You know, carrying that much production and directing that much production, and for them.
Yeah. Yeah. Honestly, I think we did ourselves a solid by doing those rehearsals, because that was this sort of place where I always felt like, oh, we're getting it. We're like, the performances are there, even though there's a chaos of production of like, you know, this location's falling out or whatever. So it was a very challenging production, but the threat was never the quality of performance. And that felt really good to know that we're going to get something, whether, you know, this location falls out or this angle doesn't work, you know, those are just going to always be part of production. So it was very challenging for me throughout that time. I'm sure it was challenging for everyone. But I do think that time in rehearsals gave ourselves that freedom to explore and improvise, because the base coats were there pretty strongly already.
Yeah. So on the day, did you find yourself not having to worry about your new directing skills with respect to the actors?
Yeah, it was less...
and that you could problem solve and focus on the other technical things that were happening, and then you knew that was tight because you guys had been together.
Yeah, basically. I mean, it also was, getting to be a bit more layered and in depth with the performance because we already know where the scene is going. Everyone knew the natural rhythms. So now, given now we're on location, there's this sort of new piece to improvise with all the actors that they did so well, and it almost felt like a new kind of tool in the toolbox. So yeah,
How do you get them to not be, rehearsed and to make it fresh on the day?
well, actually, that was a really kind of a lucky thing for ourselves because it immediately did feel fresh right when we got in the space. Like, and of course, this is going to be the space, and it felt so natural. Whereas before, it always felt rehearsed. Now it kind of started to take on this comfort in the space.
Right.
So I think that was just kind of like a little bit of luck of having all the sort of doing all the character work, all the emotional work. And so by the time you're in the space that feels organic and, for the scene, it worked,
I mean, a lot of it too, those locations were locations we were in casting, right?
Yeah.
So the houses, the clubs, and yeah.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
Wait, what do you mean?
We actually filmed in a lot of the neighborhoods, in the apartments, in the houses of the people that we interviewed or that we met at. I
Of
mean,
the
that's what I mean. I forget. I don't know whose house was
Oh.
whose, or but we ended up using a lot. So we're filming in their neighborhood as well, and so
Right.
there's a lot of familiarity.
Yeah, so it felt like home for
Yeah.
them still.
I think
Right.
is that what? Yeah.
Yeah. I think so. I think there was a sense of like just honesty in the sense of performance that felt no longer in an office space where we were rehearsing, which that's going to help any artist or actor feel more comfortable, because now they can improvise with this thing on the table or whatever it is. So yeah, that I think worked well.
So like Kim, right? The sister
Mhm.
and the beautiful baby. Like, how did you find them
Kim was a trained local actor.
Yeah.
Yep.
and the baby?
Baby,
Babies
the
are
baby
hard.
was a
Wait.
Juilliard graduate.
Yeah, see, babies are hard. Babies
Yeah,
are
the
hardcore.
baby. No, the baby is LaShawn's little baby, LJ.
Oh God.
Yeah,
Okay.
baby LJ.
Oh, so cute.
Yeah.
But I mean, babies are hard. I mean, casting babies are hard.
Mhm.
And
Yeah,
casting
that
babies
was
are hard.
tough, honestly, because we
You don't
just
know what they're gonna do.
exactly. So those were always a little bit volatile, those scenes were. Because
Yeah.
baby's gonna cry or baby's gonna run in a play.
Yeah, baby's gonna baby.
What do you
Yeah,
think
exactly.
babies are gonna be. What do you guys think was like the biggest issue with the casting process for this particular film?
Well, it was kind of at the top of rehearsals because I think for some of our actors, they weren't consistent. And so much so that one or two got replaced over time too. And in a way, I think that was a blessing in disguise because, it also built consistency of who's willing to show up and all of that. But that was a challenge. That was definitely a challenge because there was times where I was picking up people and just, bringing them to the office so we could rehearse because I want to, make it as easy as possible. But so that was always a challenge of like, who's going to show up, who's not.
I mean, you're asking people to go on a long journey and a huge commitment.
It's
For something they have no knowledge of.
And something they don't know, is this going to pay off? Is this, I mean,
Mhm.
we crowdsourced for a bit, right? Or there was no funding, right?
Yeah, we did the
Yeah.
Kickstarter. I was putting in my own personal finances for a good bit,
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it literally was like, trust us, we're going to make something great,
Mhm.
And time is very valuable, especially when you're, trying to survive. And so we all,
Yeah.
and
And so you had a completed script with all of these characters, or did some characters just get created in the world on the day? And
No, I mean, extras, yes, but everything was scripted, like there's kind of this idea of that it was so loose and improvised. That's not true really at all. Every character was scripted, and the whole arc of the story pretty much as you see it remained as it was from the script. So, I think improvisation really is key. And this is kind of where music, or my process in music, kind of comes in. I like to have a structured idea, whether it's a melody or a character. And then from there, I want to sort of play, then we can play, then we can improvise, and within all of that. But I like to really have set parameters, meaning the scene is going from this place to this place. And these are the things that we're going to either say or do in them. And we can do it in a number of ways, but it's not changeable what we're headed, where we're headed. And so I want that sort of structure, but also the ability to play within it. So it was definitely structured.
And that's what I'm always surprised at in a lot of the jobs that we do, that how close at the end of the day at the cut it is to the script.
Right.
It's the freedom, I think, allows for a fluidness and a realness, but the points in the story are always there. Like I think DAYVEON was pretty close to the script.
Yeah. And like in music, I feel pretty much the same way. It's like usually you kind of start out with an idea or certain chords, but then the fun is to find something brand new right then and there, but it only accentuates what you hopefully had.
Makes sense. Yeah.
Was there like special handling that had to sort of be taken into consideration for the like this gang world, right? Like how did you bridge any gaps of like your knowledge? And
yeah, that's one, I would say. LaShawn Buckingham, again, just incredibly pivotal in the making of it. So he's our producer. But in terms of special handling, I think that would kind of go against the whole ethos of the general process, because I think to build trust, you have to be honest, open, vulnerable in all ways. And so that's admitting what I don't know and where I can be informed as much as it is to anyone else. And I think we always had that sort of that path that felt free and honest, that like felt comfortable. Because at the end of the day, I was readily admitting, this is my first film. I don't really, I don't have a full grasp of how to pull this off. And so I was showing like very early rough cuts with my cast and crew too. And so I just think, even for my own sanity, it was just willing to kind of just be as open as I could.
I think
I mean, I don't, what would you say, John?
I would think I was thinking about like how we're able to go and connect with people. And it is because you have this honest and you are so open, and there isn't, I think with me and you and Carmen are just able to connect with humans, And so, and we're not looking at it, and we're seeing the beauty in the person. We're connecting with another human, and they can. I think you can sense that. You can trust it, right? You can feel it. You're like, these people aren't trying to pull one over on me. They seem like they're honest and they're cool, and authentic. And so, I think you have to be that type of person to be able to pull something like this off.
Yeah. It was. It's a very, very it really felt like a family by the end of it, very much.
I mean, you saying to them, like, I don't know what I'm doing, is exactly where they're at. They're like, we don't know what we're doing. Let's go figure this out together.
Yeah, exactly. It creates this bonding that feels like we're out to get this together. That felt.
That's what I felt. I felt like, hey, we're gonna make something cool. I don't know what, but we're gonna make something cool.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, exactly.
And you're cool. You want to come make this with us?
And also, I should also mention Stephen Renaud, my co-writer, who's freaking fantastic, who just like, we were always bouncing ideas of just how to kind of rewrite just all of it. So it was like a deep collaboration in many ways, a very, very strong, deep collaboration.
Yeah.
Is there anything you would have like changed in like if you can go back, it's like, oh, or obviously you would have learned like moving forward, okay, I know not to do this now, or oh, this worked out, I should do this. But if in this process, is there anything that you could have, if you could have changed, would you?
Oh my
And
God.
what?
A million things all the time.
I mean, you just
Oh,
had the
really?
you just kind of had the opportunity, right? Because you kind of duplicated this process recently.
Yeah. Oh, are you talking about specific to casting or?
Yeah, I mean all of it, but of course specifically the casting. Yeah.
I mean, as we all are probably with our own work, we're kind of our most harshest critic. So like, I'll look at a frame and be like, oh, I should have done this, or a piece of dialogue. You know, like there's a million things that I can always do. I try to turn that part of my brain off though after something is done. But what I have learned and what I've taken from that process are a few things. I really covet and love the ability to work with actors on a long period of time. I think that feels really nice. I really enjoy working with non-actors. I think there is that sort of honesty of character that really is there. And then what I really learned and what I would have changed is actually not anything on the pre or production side. It was on the post-production side. I didn't really sort of give myself the full runway to like we were out of financing, you know, like I was only thinking about production at that time, like we got to make the movie. And so I didn't have the sort of full scope of what I need to do in post-production. So that was my big learning lesson. What on the second movie, I really kind of made a bigger effort to protect. But thankfully we had great producers who came in after production who helped post-production like be the space where we could, you know, edit for a long period of time. But there was a window of time where, you know, I wasn't sure of how to even put it all together, you know, like I didn't have,
Yeah, we had a group of people that were waiting to see what we could do or you know, what we could make. And then once we made it, they're like, okay, you guys aren't. This is pretty good.
I guess you know what you're doing.
I think it was that kind of was like,
yeah, it was
like
pretty,
let's see what you guys can do. You know, basically let's see what you can do, not all you guys, but it's like let's see what. Come on, let's go show you. You know, you talk a good game. Let's see what you can do.
Yeah, exactly. But no, I'm really happy that this movie sort of grew legs after production because I freaking needed the help. Like post-production, we were literally out of financing and I was just given a bunch of hard drives, you know, like that was the movie. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what to do. Like I didn't even have a computer powerful enough to even look at the footage.
Yeah.
Like I could go into it. I didn't even have the ability to sync the footage. So it was challenging, really challenging. That was a major lesson learned.
And at that point, you're kind of like all alone all of a sudden. Like,
Totally.
It's like you have all this crew and cast and everyone around you, and then you're just left with these hard drives and yourself in your kitchen, and you're like, what the fuck now?
That's totally right.
And your parents were like, you made hard drives? That's what you did?
Well, that's what you get at the end, right? You just get sound files and video files at the end. But that was, I don't know what I don't think I would change it in hindsight, but I'm happy to have learned from that process too, because with the first film, it's by any means, you know, you just gotta do it. You will learn trial by fire, trial by error. It just is part of the painful process. So yeah, I mean, that was definitely something I learned.
So was there any particular scene or moment that you found extra challenging to direct your actor or actors that you kind of learned in the process of that?
Yeah, I would say some of the intimate scenes between Brian and Kim, you know, making that feel like an honest, sacred relationship. And I credit so much to them and their performance, but it was essentially more so giving them what they need, more of a closed set, things of that nature. And also there is the scene of DAYVEON first getting initiated in the gang. And so we knew that was going to be emotionally maybe a challenging day. So we made sure Devin, we had a shorter day, only that scene, and you know, kind of worked through all the comforts of what Devin was and wasn't willing to do, and his parents were on set, and just made sure, you know, that was, you know, we felt that, you know, it was going to be a challenging emotional day. Yeah. So we wanted to just kind of let that be the thing and make sure he has a great day. So we had the environment of a very sort of positive, encouraging day between the actual, you know, filming of the scenes. But that was a challenging one for sure.
Yeah, that was a hard one to watch.
Mm-hmm.
And did they sort of choreograph that together? The
Yeah.
squad of actors.
Yeah, we choreographed that within rehearsal too. Yeah, so we were always kind of rehearsing what would work in terms of camera, what would work in terms of comfort, all of those things. And then Dustin, our cinematographer, was kind of working through ways in which, you know, we could sort of cut or fake it or whatever, you know. So it's so much emotional and so much technical, and so those can present, you know, a pretty large challenge for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I love the way you guys did it, because it was so impactful. The way we couldn't see a lot what was happening, and your imagination feels it with the sound design.
Yeah,
and your imagination does a lot of the work, which is I really liked.
Yeah, and also we made it POV too, where the camera itself is.
Yeah,
you know.
I love that shot.
Yeah,
right. And so
I really did.
Oh, I appreciate that. You
yeah,
know,
I was like, oh, okay.
it feels a bit more visceral too.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah.
kind of just like a nice craft element that we use. So it just feel like that without having to be like that. Yeah.
Yeah. That's great.
If you want to talk, there's so many shots I love too that we could talk about.
Yeah.
Like I think you have an overhead shot of the baby sleeping.
Oh yeah.
And he's just like the sun and his glistening, beautiful skin. And then later in the movie, you have an overhead shot of DAYVEON sleeping in very much the same way.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about, with the baby in the movie, it was sort of telling another side story, for me anyway, of the evolution of these boys in this environment, their lives, and how they grow up. And you said you showed it so quietly for me in one moment, where the mom was sleeping alongside the kid. Well, I don't think she was sleeping. She was like petting his head and everything, and just being really mothering to the toddler. And I was just thinking, it was so quiet, nothing was even said, and I was just so impacted at how these mothers love these boys, just like every mother loves their boy, you know, and then they may grow up into this environment that they're in and then have to lose them in these awful ways. And like it was just so impacting to see the mother's love, you know, that then when we all grow up and we all get big, we start looking for love in other ways and other places, that mommy can't hold us anymore. And then what is the next step? What is in the world around me?
Totally. Yeah. I mean, in terms of like the composition and the framing of specific scenes and characters, you know, Dustin Lane is a fantastic cinematographer, and I think I deeply relied on, you know, what his thoughts were throughout, and our journey of collaboration started earlier too. So he prior to cinematography came from a painting background, and I had been studying photography. And so those sort of sensibilities kind of collided in this unique way. But again, you know, beyond any sort of art, I think it's about the eye. And I think Dustin possesses a level of empathy as an artist that I really love and cherish. And so I knew we were always going to be working in the same perspective. And so that was the most important thing, rather than any one specific scene, because I think, you know, in terms of composition, a shot can look beautiful, but is it saying anything? Are you feeling anything?
Yes.
I care more about that, to be honest. So even if you think about DAYVEON, there's scenes that the composition doesn't work in some conventional way. But to me, I think it's important for the character or something about that moment that is more important than the sort of natural beauty of a composition. And it's always best when those two align, because then that feels like there's some true magic happening. And thankfully, I think we had a few of those times where that kind of collided. But beyond Dustin's artistic process, it was his level of like humanity that I really love about him.
It definitely feels that way, that we're getting a really intimate look on a difficult life and a difficult subject. But the eye feels so sympathetic
Mm-hmm.
that
Definitely.
it feels okay to be there. Like you're with them. You're not watching them. You
Yeah.
know, it just felt really...
One of my favorite moments is on the couch when Dontrell gets home and he's watching TV and she sits down next to him, and he's tired. You could tell, and he's just watching TV and he's kind of not really paying attention to her. And it's like, I don't like that choice to do that way is so great, and most people wouldn't do. Like it'd take a really trained actor to be like, I'm tired. I'm not gonna pay attention to this. I'm gonna be kind and loving, but I'm just like stuck on Judge Judy.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, and it was like so beautifully crafted. And I'm like, did he think of that? Did you think of that? Did you guys come up with that? Or like, it's such a well-crafted moment.
It's a real scene, like a real moment.
Yeah.
Also, it wasn't really like he was so invested in Judge Judy
at all. He's just like,
he was just glassy-eyed after work. You're just staring at something.
Yeah.
Completely. Yeah, no, that's when that magic happens, where everyone's collaboration on equal measure is just working. Like Dustin's composition of framing upwards, Dontrell's performance, just that energy, I think, was like, again, about trust. It was just like, we felt like we could sort of just be honest and vulnerable.
The sophistication to make that choice, right, is just, it's amazing.
Well, thank you, sir. That's very kind. No, I think I learned a lot from making that movie. And I think I'm folding that into a little bit of a process for sure. But yeah, I think it was a very formative experience for me, for sure. And honestly, I will say I made this as a way of not with much ambition. And John, you know this, like, I wasn't putting a lot of expectation of like, this movie is going to go here, this is why you should do this. Like, that was never the objective or goal in my head. It was just like to make a story that I was passionate about, to do it in a way that I think that I could be passionate about as well, and just to explore and experiment too.
Yeah, I mean, I don't remember anyone ever thinking, oh, this is gonna do. It was just sort of like, Amman's cool, let's go do this. Like, he seems like he's crazy enough to pull this off. Let's go try it.
And this all just stems from your work in Chicago. Like, that was the seed that was planted.
Very much so.
Yeah.
I think also a lot of growing up in Little Rock, Pakistani, and just that the rural environment, that world, and I mean, I think that has a huge impact. That location,
Little Rock has a big Bloods and Crip population, but growing up in elementary and middle school, like, this would be a prominent theme, and I never really fully understood, because we didn't have a big sort of like I never understood why a gang operated in such a rural space.
Like, it should be urban, you mean?
No, not even, but more so if it's not a big space. Like, I don't know, like usually in Chicago or in California, there is some other vessel that's some like financial or economic sort of trade that makes it make sense in some way. And then in Little Rock, it was always kind of present. And it made sense when I realized, going to Chicago, like the idea of a sort of, bond or brotherhood or family, that felt really honest and pure. And to be very frank, like, I love Little Rock, but I will be I'll be critical where I see it's not great. And Little Rock is a city that is still very segregated, right? And so and I grew up in where I was somewhat of an anomaly. I'm this brown kid who's not white, nor I'm black. And I never sort of, but I could sort of observe spaces. And it always felt a little illogical that we still had this sort of segregated space. And so with Davion, I also wanted to show, if you notice, there's not one white person in the film. There's no cops in the film. There's no opposing gang in the film. I cut off the periphery, meaning that sort of boxy sort of image, to sort of make a little bit of a political statement there too, to suggest, look, it's kind of cut off, right? Like, this is the community. Even though Little Rock is a place where you think it is kind of a more liberal haven, but it's let's be honest, it's segregated. It's segregated. And I just got to be honest. So
and where these guys are, it's country. I mean, it's there. I mean, where the neighborhoods are, where we went. I mean, it's country.
Yeah. So like, it's equal parts of, presenting a space that has been overlooked and also sometimes has been vilified, and to create a space of humanity that feels compassionate, but then also to be a little bit honest and critical of that overall space of saying that's a little bit enclosed by just sort of like unjust segregation ultimately. And by the way, so I went to Central High, the sort of prominent high school in Little Rock. And this was in 1957. This was the first school that introduced integration, right? Like the first time at the end of segregation. That was a pretty big uproar in Little Rock in 57. But when I graduated in 2006, after we had sort of made these huge strides, I don't know if I could say that it was all like happy-go-lucky, it was still, I would say it still had some issues of segregation. And this is kind of, honestly, I felt like I picked up a lot of Brent and Craig Renault's great insight, because they were doing a documentary for HBO on the 50th anniversary of Central High at that time, and to see what had changed in that time. And we've, accomplished a lot, but a lot is left to do. And I think that was kind of what was a little bit of what I wanted to sort of suggest there too, not overly political, but more in a poetic lensing, because I try not to be overtly political. I'd let that sort of be the sort of overall larger questions.
I'm trying to think. Didn't you do some stuff in high school too that got you in trouble a bit, or was there something about?
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Like,
I thought. I remember we went to Central High.
Why are you trying?
Oh
to
yeah. I don't think. I mean, I'm getting myself in trouble. I'm getting myself in trouble here.
I think John's getting you in trouble.
Yeah, he is. No, I don't think that principal liked me because I was working with them.
Yeah, that's what it was. Yeah,
they were giving that school less of a shiny image that it had for some time.
Yeah,
because you were working with those kids.
No, he's working.
No, I was working with the Renault brothers.
Oh.
Yeah, it made it seem like when he was a little kid that he got in trouble. So that's what I think you took from that, right?
Oh no, I didn't know who you meant by they didn't like it, because Central High didn't like you working with them. I didn't know what he meant.
Yeah, so it was in high school when I first started working with them, and
they were trying to control the narrative, and the doc did not put it in the best light, I guess. Or
no, it's not in the best light.
It just showed its truthfulness where we're at. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah.
It just painted.
Some people don't like the truth.
Right, I was gonna say, the truth is that can be ugly.
Yeah,
exactly.
You're not ready to receive it.
Exactly. So that was.
Then the other great, awesome moment was all of us going to Sundance and like getting to
tell it.
Oh,
the cast of Sundance. It was awesome
for all of them too.
How the heck was it like first time on a plane?
Some, yeah.
I think so. Yeah.
That's so awesome.
We really got so lucky. We got into Sundance, and then not only that, we got opening night too. None of us had. I'm speaking for myself, but most of us hadn't gone to Sundance at that point. And so to not only have your film in and then also it be opening night was like, wow.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
We were just very, very grateful. And that experience was just so enriching. And it was great to, you know, after several months of having been all together, you know, the editing kind of puts us in separate places to then come back and celebrate around the sort of premiere of our film was just a really special feeling. It was great. It was really, really great.
Did that help you feel better about your overall like talent, you know, coming into this as your first film? No, right. He's like, no.
We're all
I was
imposters for eternity.
Right. I was just wondering because I think we asked a similar
Yeah.
question before to someone else. Like, did that help at all?
Oh, Amon had sunglasses on the whole time, signing autographs.
No, I mean, honestly, like this is kind of why. Okay, so I was critical of Little Rock, but now I'll be more like forgiving of it. This is why I love having been raised in a place like this, because I feel as though everyone just has an honest job and not really care about what a person quote unquote does. And I think I was sort of like raised like that. And so while we had the great honor of going to Sundance and doing all these fantastic things, I didn't really put it past just that. You know, of course I wanted to make another movie. Of course I want to build my network. Those are the things that I want to pursue. But I went back home and then continued to work editing and things like that. So I think it was a major boost in my own artistic sense of self. But I don't think it tripped me out to think of like, I don't know, like I didn't put too much expectation.
The reward was we all came together. Everyone took a risk. Everyone worked really, really hard. And now we had the world was saying, you guys, this is great.
Yeah,
This is great.
job.
You get a good job. We're really, this is a beautiful piece of artwork.
Yeah.
And we're gonna, you know, and I think for a lot of the people involved in the film, that's maybe the first time that they've had that sort of reinforcement or that positivity from an outside world, right? To say like, you know, we see you and we congratulate you. And I mean, I cried. I was just like so proud and so happy. And I mean, I tear up thinking about it. Just like that moment of just like, you know, that love.
It was
that love getting them,
Look at you
everybody
getting all
everybody
teary-eyed,
getting
John.
that
Oh my
love
gosh.
back for all that
Yeah.
hard work was just amazing.
Yeah.
I know,
I
it
think
was
it
really
definitely-
amazing. We had a nice standing ovation there too, and it was just like kind of floored and speechless to kind of, because that was never the goal, honestly. Like it was never a goal. Like we got lucky. Let's be honest. It's always hard to know what happens in these situations. So I count myself as very lucky to have gotten that. But I do believe in just hard work and keeping yourself honest and making the thing the best you can and just see what comes of it in that way. So I don't know. I just don't overly think about
it's not that. It's just that you can go out, you can do something, you can make something, and it can succeed. You know, that's what was. It wasn't about it gave us validation. It was like it was saying, look, you can try something different, and you can make something, and it can go somewhere, and it can be accepted, and it can, you know, give you open the world for you. You know, and that was, I think, huge.
And on top of that, to be able to see the world receive that and understand it and see
the one thing I love about like real people casting is I get to open a door to a world that's really hard to open and people get to experience it.
Yeah,
you know?
I do think that's cool.
Yeah.
Especially when I'm trying to convince, like I've been out on the street and they're like, "You're what?
Yeah.
And you want me?" You know? And then their whole world is just like, "Oh, I never even thought or even imagined themselves in that type of environment at all, like this world of film and TV."
Completely. And also, honestly, for me as well, like, I mean, this was entirely my first rodeo. It's like in my mid-20s going to Sundance, and having all of that was both exciting and kind of terrifying too, because then it opened my eyes to just this general world of what this thing is. But I'm really grateful for it, for sure.
And you're like up and coming, top 25. You're
Right.
like, what? I just made this.
Yeah.
I can only imagine the pressure of like, oh my God, now I have to try to top that maybe. Like, I mean, I don't know if you think like that, but I know like probably a natural initial reactions like, I got to do something and it has to either be as good or better for my next
Yeah,
project.
those obviously, yeah, there's internal pressures that build up. But I will say I had incredible, and I still have incredible mentors who have like given me a little bit of like future telling before I hit a wall or find myself in a position, you know? So like that, those mentors have been really pivotal. And the kind of thing that doesn't change is usually make things that you're honestly proud of, regardless of what happens to them. And I wholeheartedly believe in that. I know it's cliche, but I genuinely do.
No, I think that's true.
Yeah, I felt at the Q&A, like everybody was just so honest and natural in themselves, and they weren't, no one, you know, it was just sort of, we're here, you know, and answering in an honest way, and it was a wonderful night.
It
And
really
has all of that affected your future casting process in any way? Like, if you had to, you know, make accommodations for casting a name or dealing with money people and in the world of casting for whatever you've done in the future now?
Yeah, 100%. And inevitably it will always now, because that kind of is where I first started my process. So I like I was saying earlier, I really value that time that I can have with an actor. And even in these conversations, when it's let's say a name actor, I mean, that's something that I still want, and I make it clear. And I think the reason why someone may respond positively to my work is maybe because they enjoyed that process. And so I use it as a sort of, as a point of saying, well, look, that's something that's part of my process, and I like that. And I think that is something, maybe what you're responding from, the sort of output is by that process. So I hope I can convince them, but I can't convince them all in that way, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
But you also don't want the wrong person in that process. So
no, it's true.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, you're right. You're right. That would be tough too, for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
And so are you the kind of writer-director who you see what you want, who you want, or could you see many other people could have played Davion? Or
No, I'm not. I'm not. I feel like, you know, it's instinctive. And I think John and Carmen are kind of like that too. It's either
I mean, I think the one thing that you do is you stay more open than I do. You know, you're like, it's great, but maybe let's keep looking. And I was like, no, this is the guy. You know, and you're more of like, well, no, it's great, but let's maybe, you know, go try this or try that. You keep a more open mind. When I think I hone in on somebody and I'm like,
that's the one.
This is it. Yeah. It's almost like a signal goes off.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, I try not to sort of overly back myself into a corner, but I usually know what I'm liking pretty quickly.
No, you definitely do, for sure. But you're open to, like, you know, like testing it kind of. Let's see if it holds up, right?
Totally. 100%.
Yeah.
And so for this latest casting process, for this latest feature that you've done, did you do the same type of non-actor casting? And did you do auditions? Did you...
It's very similar, very similar. It's all another cast of non-professional actors entirely. And this time around, I didn't have John and Carmen to go out to the mountains of Pakistan as much as I would have loved to, but it was
much as I would have loved to.
Yeah, I'm like, John, what were you busy, John? How did you not get there?
I would have been on Google Translate and been like...
For sure.
Yeah.
We had Sana Jaffrey, who was a casting director, but then became a producer. But yeah, it was what we learned on Davion, but then also just kind of organically letting that grow, but non-professional entirely. And we rehearsed a lot again. And yeah, a lot of those same themes started to come out for sure.
I think that's amazing because you know, giving opportunities to so many people. You know, I love to see new faces,
Me
you
too.
know, and I just, to watch this, I was like, I don't know anyone in this film, but it reminded me a lot of, like I said, of people I grew up with. Like, so
Yeah.
I felt the connection in that way. Like, you know, seeing
Yeah.
even people in my own family. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm watching this and I'm like, oh crap, this reminds me of so and so. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Totally.
And like watching him go through, like in the beginning, I was like, oh, he's in so much pain.
Right.
Like, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and then he talks about like his dad and his mom and then his big brother. And I was like, ugh, you know, because most of those kids that I went to school who were in that predicament, like funny, like we were really good friends, smart as hell, but yet this is what they felt their option was.
Yeah.
You know?
Definitely. No, I really appreciate you saying that. And that was kind of it because you know, there are so many young kids that I met in Chicago who are like so freaking brilliant, incredibly gifted and so smart.
Like straight A students and stuff and creative and
entertaining.
And like I'm thinking of someone in my family very particular. Okay.
Yeah.
And,
so
so
that's so
watching,
inspiring. It's so inspiring because that's sort of like an enterprising spirit in a way to want to look for a community, like those are naturally good instincts in my opinion, to want to find community, to want to, like, especially at that young age, like, so I think no, I really appreciate you saying that.
Because because you know, you have the ones who are there for you, who are trying to keep you on the straight and narrow, but for whatever reason, you know, you have this internal struggle of like, do I keep being the good kid? Do I go this way? You know what I mean? Like, and I saw it firsthand. So watching him, I like instantly, like emotionally was tugged. I was like, oh my gosh.
And that's Devin Blackman.
Yeah.
He's so fantastic.
Yeah.
Devin.
Hey, I'm going to plug in my laptop. I'm just moving locations. Sorry.
About
this.
Give us the tour.
Well, I'm in my studio.
It's like MTV Cribs.
Exactly.
Make sure you don't have any notes you don't want on the back there.
Yes.
Is it? Okay. We'll just do
it. You don't want people to know what your act 2 is going to be.
Yeah.
Right, exactly.
If it goes out on the internet, you know that they'll blow it up and start looking through.
Yep.
Exactly. Sorry. Almost
You're good.
There we go. Okay.
Yeah, and I think with those non-professional actor performances, it's like if you can get it to the place that you, Amman, got it, where it feels so real. It feels like I'm watching these people live. It's like, as a professional actor, that's what I'm always trying to achieve. So much of what I'm trying to achieve.
Well, I'm excited to try to roll this into working with actors, right? Like name actors who can sort of open themselves up to maybe this process, and me even open myself to their process too. But exactly what you said is what I want to try to do throughout my career, but let it take various forms and shapes, and not just be exclusively non-actors and only presented in that way. Like, finding that way in which to do it in several different processes, like that's the challenge that I'm trying to kind of do.
Well, and you carving out rehearsal time and the exercises and the building of the relationships, I guarantee you there are far more professional actors who come from theater and who come from classes who are used to working 100%. In that intimate way. Yeah. That then sort of gets crushed out of them as we get stuck in this cycle of auditionings, self-tapes. It's like you're just always trying to ask for the job and trying to do what you think the script is telling you, and you have no knowledge and you have no time and you have no real environment to react upon. And it sort of squashes all of that out of you. So if a director were to come to me and, carve out the space and the time for us to rehearse and to play and to be like, I'm really going to push you. Let's really open up. Let's really be real.
Lovers of Hate was kind of like that, right?
Exactly.
You guys were in a condo in Sundance, snowed in, and you had all this time to just rehearse and make these moments.
Wow. That rehearsal actually came before we got to the condo. It was in the abandoned Austin airport buildings.
Yeah.
We would meet there and we would spend hours there, and we would do rehearsals of, different exercises of self-revelation and getting to know each other.
Right.
And then, there's an element of like hide and seek in the movie. And so we played hide and seek in the abandoned building and just spent time with each other, being real.
Spending
and
time
opening-
with each other.
Yeah.
It
watch
makes
watch
such a
Lovers of
huge
Hate if you
difference.
get to. And I think the thing is that these Lovers of Hate, Davion, are made this way out of necessity because his desire to make a film, it costs so much, and you don't have this time. You have like, I think even the Pakistan movie was made because you were just sick of waiting on your other movie to get made.
That's
because
right.
you're waiting on the system.
Right.
Yeah.
He's waiting
Right.
on getting the names for the financing and this and that. And so you end up making these great pieces of art out of just like getting people together and being like, okay, we're gonna
get
make
it done.
something together.
Yeah.
And I mean, I think that's it wasn't, I don't know necessarily that Davion was like, I want to go work with real people. It's like, what are our options? Like, who can we afford to use to do this? And it was like, well, let's go get the real deal.
Yeah.
And it worked.
And then Heather, just to build off your point, you're right, because like production and set is not a very like intimate environment to
Not at all.
it's never going to be that. So as much as we can to try to like build that sense of like honest, depthful relationship beforehand.
So important.
I mean,
Yeah.
my acting coach pushes us. Y'all need to spend time together while you work this scene this month. And I swear, all my greatest scenes were my scene partner and I actually hung out. Yes, we worked the scene, we did this, but then it was like, okay, I need to know you, you need to know me. And then we got to a level of understanding each other's boundaries and what we're open to, and then really work the scene. Like, we were so comfortable with each other that now I'm playing this character.
Any other thing, dancing, band, any other gymnast, anything that takes this intimate rehearsal and time, right? And practice.
Oh, yeah.
And then, like, TV is just insane.
Yeah.
Like, I show up to base camp, I go through hair and makeup, and then I'm sent to my trailer where I sit until someone calls me and then walks me through to the set that's already built. That's my office or whatever that I've never seen.
And you don't
before
really know
that
where anything
moment.
is.
I have there's the other actor I've never seen before in my life. You have no idea. This is the first second you've seen any of this stuff. And I'm like, okay, I got to sit down. I got to touch this pen like I touch it every day. I got to figure this shit out real fast.
Right. Yeah.
And then it's just like, someone turns to you and is like, are you ready?
But you're so
and
right,
I'm like,
John.
I mean,
All that's
yes, of
related.
course I'm ready, but I could be better ready.
But that
if we
is
took
like
some
the
time and connected. I could be better.
You're so right. And that is like such, like, I mean, honestly, the brilliance of a great actor who's able to even do that, like to just kind of pull it together that quickly. I have the utmost amount of respect, but that's got to be so hard. So
It's really
you made me think
hard.
about in band, like
right.
we would play, and if you close your eyes, especially if you're playing with your band members, you can hear and you know who's playing. You can tell when they're tired. Ooh, that they knew when I was messing up or they're messing up, and I'm like, I'm first chair. I get tired too. You know what I mean? So it's like, but we were able to help each other, pull us through. Yeah, it doesn't matter what you're in if you have the opportunity to have that time.
What we're learning, Amman, is that we all need to make no money.
Yes, and we need to have 4 months of rehearsal.
Yeah, exactly right. That's the way to do it.
Yeah.
It is.
Because then it just feels like you're working with your friends,
Yeah.
Your friends, family.
And what would
whatever.
seem so sort of counterintuitive, because like watching your movie, I would have thought the complete opposite. When I read that you rehearsed for 4 months, I literally fell out of my chair because nothing about that felt like it had been rehearsed for 1 second. Like,
Right.
It felt like I just walked into this person's house
Yeah.
and this is how they live and this is what we're doing.
Even the gang at the car, like that was the first. I was like, oh, he nailed that, man. Like I'm telling you, like I saw that and I saw my childhood in a way, right? So I was like, oh my gosh, yup, that's exactly how they are,
Right.
And they just, it felt like they were just totally being themselves.
Yeah.
Well,
Didn't even know the camera was there,
that was the hope, to make every actor feel like it's their set and empower them, because everyone, whether it's an actor or a non-actor, a viewer of just movies, we all know when there's something that feels a little
off,
facade or phony or performative. Like it's just like naturally we know And so like I just never wanted that feeling. And it's just like I wanted to empower our actors as much as possible. So
Yeah,
much
never
so
wanted
that
to
I would
be-
like almost kind of like at times ignore the crew, but intentionally. So to make sure to know that my cast knows that I'm with them. Like I'm with them. But yeah.
That's huge
It was
because
great.
you don't usually
Yeah.
see that.
It
It's
was great.
like so much time and attention is paid to all that stuff. And then I'm just supposed to bring, right? And I'm just supposed to deliver.
Sure.
And I just, right? And I'm also supposed to completely not be aware that there's 40 people right here, right?
I
I'm
know.
supposed to forget about all of you.
I know.
And that's all just supposed to come out of my head and my space. But really acting is reacting. And so it's so much easier if I can have a little bit of vibe and like some genuine environment. You know, that's why I would do my self-tapes like I would. It was like, give me a bowl of soup. If I'm going to do my own audition at home, I'm going to make a real bowl of soup. I'm going to have a real spoon. I'm going to, you know, shoot it in my kitchen and maybe not in front of the gray wall.
It's funny
Right.
how productions made itself more important than what we're actually there to capture.
Yes.
And if you watch a movie, you don't know, you never see it, you don't think about it, you know. And it's like it should be the focus, it should be, you know,
Of course.
what we're creating. So I commend you for doing that for sure, and I think it comes across 100%. And I think it's such a
100%.
beautiful film.
It's so
Well,
beautiful.
I have you and Carmen to thank so much in that regard of casting. Like that was a tremendous lift. So
I mean, we did it all together. It was fun, you know. We just went out and met great people and found great people, and it was great.
Everyone was so beautiful and perfect, and you got great performances out of them.
Yeah.
And then Devin was such a find that
I know.
I mean, that is something that you two are really great at, though. Like finding people. Like
They are.
they're really great.
he's got
like,
that
working
alarm
with
that goes
them.
off.
Yes.
Yeah,
Ding, that's the
exactly.
guy.
Yeah,
At this point, I want to talk about our sponsor, the gas station that brought this to you.
Yeah. Yes.
Exactly.
No, but it's true though. Like I'm just saying. Like,
Yeah.
I've seen so many like working callbacks. Like
Yeah.
where did this person come from? Whoa, that
Yeah.
was so good. You know, but yeah, I think they're really good at that. So I can.
I mean, and I have to
know what you're
give
talking
props
about.
to the mentors that we've had that's just, you know, allowed us the freedom to, in the safe space to go do this type of work, you know.
Yeah, 'cause y'all been doing this for a long
and
time,
it
too.
really does take people like Amman that you're like, you know, that is willing to put in that work and give that space to these people to perform. And, you know, I mean, I think that we find a lot of people that if circumstances were different, they maybe would have taken this path as an actor, you know. It's just that's just not how their life worked out, you know.
Yeah.
I think Don Trell's like that. Like I think he would have, you know, he easily could have been someone that we would take, you know, that I would see, you know.
Wow. Yeah.
Agreed.
Well, if you, Amman, as you move forward and possibly get into rooms and spaces of more influence and power, can maintain that as a priority for process of, you know, rehearsal and taking time even before they roll sound. You know, just in that moment when lighting and set and everyone in last looks has all happened, if you take 5 minutes, if you can, to just let the crew have quiet conversations amongst themselves while you work with the actors and then make everybody else wait for a whole second, you know, like it really does. It makes a difference in we all remember where we're focused. And actually it's on these people who are telling our story in front of the camera.
Yeah.
And
You're so right. Yeah.
Because otherwise it doesn't happen. You know, it's such a foreign environment.
Especially for people that don't have a lot of experience on set. It's like they feel this like, oh, I better hurry up and get this out because these guys are in a hurry and they got to get to this next thing and they're stressed out. So I just better get these words out quick.
Yeah,
you know?
I mean, I remember my first time on set. I didn't even know who the director was at first. You know, 'cause everybody was going, and then I had to figure, oh, okay, there they are, right?
Yeah.
Right.
And then it's like, oh, you're doing great, Kendra. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Right? I don't know if I really was or not. But you know what I mean? Like my very first time coming from stage to like, I'm on set.
Be real careful when they say you're doing great, but
No,
can
I
you
know.
try it like this?
Right. No. No, but you know what I mean? Like, you know, I'm just saying like that first time, you know, like you're saying, it's so crazy busy and so much is happening. And even though I've been trained, we don't train with
You don't
on
train
a
for
set.
that.
You don't
Yeah.
see all that
No.
happening. So I'm saying, as a very young actor coming on set
Yeah.
for the very first time, it was like overwhelming.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
it's-
you have an opportunity, Amon, to change things.
Change the world.
Yes.
Amon.
I don't know about that, but fingers crossed I can hold on to this process a little bit longer. No, but you all are so right. It is always so hectic on set. So wherever we can preserve that sort of artistic quality time to have those safe, quiet conversations, and also just to build trust. It's like kind of what we're here to do anyways, is to share story in front of and behind the camera.
Right.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I applaud you. What a
Yep.
beautiful film.
Beautiful film.
Thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
with-
Thanks for inviting me on. This has been awesome. I don't even know how long we've been talking, but it felt like it went by like this. It's been great.
We could keep going.
I
but
could
we're-
talk
yeah,
so
we could-
much more about the movie, but
Anything
instead,
else? Any
I
closing?
kind of want to, I want to talk about are those some pandas making sweet love?
Oh,
behind you on
yeah.
that calendar?
What is this?
Yeah.
He's
This
so
is the year of the panda, I believe. 2023,
They
maybe?
look like they're affectionate.
They are. They're looking very affectionate.
Well, I can't wait to see what
gotta be
comes out
good.
next.
Yeah, I'm about to say
Yeah.
we have to talk to you again once this next one.
Please, can
Do
we
you have
talk to you
Do you have
again?
a title yet, or
Yasmin's
Can you say-
Element.
what is it?
Yasmin's Element.
Yasmin's Element.
And it'll be subtitled, or
Subtitled, yes. It's
Okay.
all spoken in Urdu.
that's
the native
awesome,
tongue in Pakistan. Yeah, so we will.
dude. I'm
dope.
super
I
excited to
know,
be like,
yeah.
where did you get that guy?
You're right.
I know, right?
Right.
Yeah.
I can't wait to share it with you all too.
Yeah.
Awesome. Cool,
Yeah.
man.
Okay, well, hey, listen, thank you so much for inviting me on. Until next time.
Until next
Until
time.
next time.